All right, hello SEC West fans. Pretty much what a hell of a week we just had in Week 8. Well, we learned a lot. Bama played good over Tennessee. I just listened to Feinbaum, and a lot of Alabama fans are talking about the red zone offense of Alabama and all this, and I could see, I guess, why some people might be unimpressed. But anytime you can block 2 field goals in one game, I'll take it, and the win. I mean, special teams is definitely a part of football games. And another thing, Alabama, between the 20s, they moved the ball pretty well. Ingram had his first fumble, which I think, unfortunately, that's going to cost him the Heisman or even some consideration. It's so crazy. Unless they can go on and win the national championship, which they could do. I just thought it was unfortunate the guy fumbled the ball because he's been playing lights out. Ole Miss and Arkansas. If y'all looked at my show the last week, I told you Ole Miss was going to win that one. It didn't surprise me at all. The way Arkansas played kind of surprised me in that McCuster could just run over the field on them. But, hey, Ole Miss is a really good team this year, and they came alive finally. And unfortunately for Arkansas, they were caught right up in it. Mississippi State put up a good fight against Florida. I really think Mullen's going to have that program going in the right direction. What more can you say? I mean, they were really outmanned by Florida. And LSU Auburn, LSU put together a solid performance, of course. LSU fans, this win is fool's gold, and don't hang your hat on it. With all due respect to Auburn and their football program and tradition and all the great games that LSU and Auburn has played, in the 80s, I hated Auburn, but I've come to respect them over the last couple of decades. But this is a bad Auburn team. The defense is bad, and we couldn't run the ball hardly on them at all. With Keelan Williams and Charles Scott, finally took Russell Shepard to take one to the house, and I think he accomplished 80% or some odd of our rushing yards on that one play. So, it was good for LSU in the sense that the offense might have found them some confidence, something they can build on. They're going to play Tulane this week, so maybe, barring injuries, I would much rather be playing Tulane than having an off week like Bama has, because this offense really needs it. And we'll look at that Tulane game to see if they're continuing to make progress. It's going to be interesting. Going back to the Arkansas-Ole Miss game, if you look at the stats, Snead didn't have that spectacular of a day. He was 22 of 33 with 2 interceptions and 332 yards, 2 touchdowns. But he's still not playing like we all thought he would, like somebody that's going to get drafted in the first round of the NFL draft. On this topic, I got a hell of a good email last week from an Arkansas fan. I don't know if he gave me permission to say his name, so I won't. But anyway, I didn't even get his permission to read this email until today, but I'm going to read it because I'm trying to figure out this Snead thing. And here's his theory. This is an Arkansas fan's theory, so he's talking a little trash. But anyway, listen to this. Any logical fan of the Rebels should have a major eye-opener late in the game when they come out of a timeout and get a substitution penalty. That's classic Houston Nutt right there. And he's talking about South Carolina and Ole Miss game. Then he said Houston Nutt was never good for quarterbacks. Possibly the reason for the Snead letdown. Matt Jones was his only successful quarterback, and in my opinion, that was due to his athletic ability, not coaching! My 2-year-old could call a horrible play that goes south quick that Matt Jones would be able to athlete his way out of into something positive. He did inherit Stoner from Danny Ford. That team was a fumble away against Tennessee from playing for the national championship. He's right. And going back to Matt Jones, he's right too, because as an LSU fan and Alabama fans out there, Jonesy was a heartbreaker. Then he goes on to say, then he take the following. Zach Clark beats Texas in the Cotton Bowl in 2000, replaced in 01 by Jones, transfers to UCA and finishes runner-up 2 years in a row for the Harlan Hill Award, D2's version of the Heisman. Okay. Travarius Jackson saw limited action while at Arkansas. Transfers, drafted by the Vikings, started in the NFL. Now Favre shows up. Not good enough for Houston, but good enough for an NFL team. Mitch Mustang, I think we all know the story. 6-0 as a starter. Benched after a second interception at SC. Replaced by Casey Dick. Transfer to Southern Cal, and he'll never play. Ever. Robert Johnson, one of the worst we saw in Houston's time. Houston was quoted saying he plays because he is the best at handing the ball off to our running backs. ... Really? At that moment, I said, then just don't play a quarterback and direct snap it. Along came Malazan, and the Wildcat is for him. Out goes Malazan. Sorry for the rant. My point being is that given enough time, Nutt will destroy a program's quarterback position. But I keep my mouth shut. I'll wait for players to filter out the system and wait patiently for the 4-7 seasons to start piling up in Oxford. This, of course, was an Arkansas fan rant before the Ole Miss game. Apparently, there's no love lost in Arkansas for Houston Nutt, which kind of surprised me because I really grown to love the goofy guy after a while, especially after he kept LSU out of 2 SEC West championship games. So, anyway, but getting back to the point of the topic, we're trying to figure out what's wrong with Snead, and this guy might have hit it on the nail on the head. Might have something to do with Houston Nutt. I don't know, but something definitely happened to Snead this year. But, you know, hey, maybe he's coming out, and maybe this was his coming out party, and then against LSU he's going to raise hell and everything else. So anyway, getting back to this week, it's kind of a lackluster week. The premier game, if you want to call it that, is Auburn versus Ole Miss. It's going to be interesting to see whether Ole Miss can continue building on their success against Arkansas, and if Auburn continues its slide. Again, as bad as Auburn is right now, I would take Ole Miss and give Auburn the 4 points. Again, that's not anything to do against Auburn. It's just things are bad in Auburn right now. Next, we got Arkansas playing Eastern Michigan. They're 36.5-point favorites. I think it's their homecoming. Mississippi State and Kentucky are playing. Kentucky's a 3-point favorite. I sure wish the Bulldogs get them a win, but I like Rich Brooks too and the Cats. I don't really know who to pull for in that game. I guess since I'm an SEC West guy, that's it. Our game coming up, LSU versus Tulane. LSU's a 34-point favorite in this. I don't see any reason to think that Tulane is going to beat LSU. Knowing LSU the way I do, I would not bet on them. Repeat, do not bet, Bill, and a couple of my other friends in Pennsylvania and all that, when y'all send me emails saying that your picks cost you money. Do not bet on the Tigers, and do not give the Green Wave 34 points this week, because we don't know what's going to happen. I can say if the Tigers don't look past this Tulane team, if they take it serious, if they build upon the success they had in Arkansas against Auburn, boy, I just jinxed myself. So anyway, I think it sets up good for the Bama game if the kids just don't look past it. The way they've been playing this year, I doubt they will. Again, another thing I'm disappointed at in this game is that Charles Scott and Caleb Williams couldn't get the ball rolling. Well, I found an Arkansas fan. He's going to be on sometime this week. Here's our email address, secwestdudes@live.com. If you're an Auburn fan, we need you. Mississippi State, too. And again, this is a lackluster week in the SEC. I'll be watching that Auburn-Ole Miss game to see what happens in that. But I have a sinking feeling Ole Miss is gonna win it big. But again, I'm not a betting man, so don't bet on it. So anyway, I appreciate y'all watching, and send us an email, secwestdudes@live.com, and I appreciate all your other emails. I will get to them when I got time. I appreciate it.